Hello and welcome to Mr. Excalibur. My name's Arthur, and today we are looking at the Bushi class 1095 Silver Dragon Katana by Dynasty Forge. One of the things I just want to start off by saying is it's something I guess I've been a little remiss in when I'm doing these YouTube videos is stating some disclaimers. I actually got this sword through Cult of Athena. I don't represent Cult of Athena. I also don't represent Dynasty Forge. I'm kind of going through all of the major brands, looking to see what other people have done with these swords on YouTube, and trying to get kind of a consensus as to how people look at this product overall. And I have to say, the one person that I find myself kind of going back to quite a bit and kind of either echoing or disagreeing with happens to be Matthew Jensen. So if you're out there, Matt, thanks a lot for having gone where a few people have gone before when it comes to especially the Japanese swords. But with this one in particular, I found myself initially very much disagreeing with a lot of what Matt had to say about it. And then by the time I was done cutting with it and kind of really taking a close eye at it, I found myself actually agreeing with a lot of what he had to say about it. So, first of all, let's take a look at the unboxing. As I had mentioned with a previous Dynasty Forge, the unboxing with this one was a little unusual, I have to say. And then let's go into actually what Matt had to say about it. I'm going to be kind of responding to what he has to say and kind of bouncing off, either echoing or disagreeing what he had to say, and then my own experiences cutting with this thing, and some kind of wrap-up ideas here and my overall impression of it. So let's take a look at those pieces of footage, the unboxing, Matthew Jensen's few clips from them, and then also my experiences, some stats on this sword, and then a nice overall at the end. So let's take a look at all that stuff right now.
This is the unboxing of the Dynasty Forge Bushi 1095 high carbon steel Dragon Theme Katana. One of the interesting things that I found with this is I ordered this one along with another Dynasty Forge model from Cult of Athena, and the way they sent them to me was extremely different. As you guys can see here, there was no inner box. I'm kind of at a loss here as to what to think. Essentially, you had the outer box, and inside both swords were just wrapped quite a bit with this pack wrapping that came with it. So that was, there's such thing as minimalist wrapping and minimalist boxing, and then there's too minimalist. And I think this kind of went over the end. So it was a different experience unboxing both this one and the other model that came with this. The next thing I noticed immediately when pulling it out of the saya was that it felt pretty light in the hand. My initial impression of the sword, as you guys will hear a couple times throughout different portions of this video, was that it had a nice look. Aesthetically, I liked the way it looked. It handled nice. The silk wrap on the Tsuba was very comfortable. It came oiled, which was nice. So, I mean, outside of that, I wasn't noticing anything really disturbing until I started fiddling around with it just a little bit. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. First of all, of course, we have the paper test. And this is something that I thought was kind of interesting, and that was, as nice as it was, I really had to kind of push it through the paper. And it wasn't really just kind of cleaving it like, you normally see, some of these swords do. And that was also something interesting, was that it didn't quite cut the way I thought it would. Here's something else that I noticed right out of the box, and that was that it had some shake, it had some rattle. And for a sword of this price range, I expected everything to be pretty much solid. I've had swords either at this price range, more expensive and cheaper, that felt a lot better put together than this. And right off the bat, the fushi at the end, the pommel cap, was loose. And I thought that was, I don't know. But here's a closer look at some of the aesthetics. I've actually got some footage coming up here, as I mentioned before, from Matt Jensen. His camera work was a little better than mine is, and he takes a lot closer look, and it's pretty representative of what I looked at. But here's a closer look at the blade. The blade really was, I thought it was nice. Again, the aesthetics of it I thought were really nice, and here I'm wiggling the fushi here, and it didn't like that a whole lot. But yeah, I was really of kind of two minds about this particular one as I'm doing this, and there's a little bit of sire rattle. I'll mention that again later on. But the impression out of the box was very duplicitous, I guess you could say. Again, the little gold eyelets right there on the saya plug, a little loose. The Sageo cord was alright, but other than that, all the regular mechanical and functional things about the sword seems okay, at least on the surface. We're going to find out a little bit more here in just a little bit. This is Matt Jensen's footage on this very same katana, with one big exception. I want to make that clear, and I'll get to the difference there in just a minute. One of the things that he initially starts with, and this is where I kind of disagree with him, is the casting quality on the different fittings, the Fuchi-Kashira and the Tsuba. I've actually really liked them. He described them as muddy. I'm not really sure what that and that's a technical term of his or what the deal is, but I actually thought that they were very nice. Maybe my discerning eye is not as good as his, but I'm also considering the fact of how much this sword is. This sword is going for around $500. I got mine for a whole lot less. But I didn't really understand what the problem was. He didn't like how the Edo wrap fit, mainly because he thought he had to really hold on to it. I actually thought it was very comfortable. The one that I got, the Edo wrap was actually very tight. It was not loose. I really liked the silk wrap that they put on it. I thought it was very, very, very comfortable in the hand. But again, this is why we do these reviews, because they're personal choice, and also one of the reasons why I'm doing them is to get kind of a consensus on these. And Matt's really the only person that's done anything really comprehensive on this one, so I chose to kind of pick on him a little bit here as far as some difference of opinion, I guess you could say. But again, he's going back to the different fittings as just not really having. He liked the theme of it, but how well that theme was executed, yeah, he kind of thought it was just kind of okay. This was something I really did enjoy, although I have to admit I do agree with Matt's opinion on how this end cap on the end of the saya fit. It was a nice relief on the piece itself, but it did seem like it didn't really fit. As I mentioned before, he sees the same issue I do, and that is the little eyelets on the saya plug not fitting very well. Again, he's kind of going back to the point here that he's having to kind of white knuckle it, but also some interesting just geometry features of the blade, how he didn't really like the shape as it comes out of the hilt area. I didn't really mind it that much. I thought it had, yeah, he's showing it how it kind of just angles off. Mine didn't do that. Maybe he got a bad one. I don't know. But mine didn't really have that particular issue. He complimented how they did the tip, the grinding on the tip, and it was nice. But then he goes into something that I want to focus on here for just a minute. I'm trying to get this out quickly here. He talks about how the fact that he doesn't really like how the hamon line was acid etched or acid reinforced or exaggerated. I don't know where he's getting his information, but on neither Cult of Athena or Dynasty Forge themselves do they mention that the hamon line is anything but actually clay created, showing evidence that it actually is differentially heat treated. Matt kind of really went on a bit of a tear on this and mentioned again at the very end of his video how he didn't like that aesthetically. Now that was his personal opinion. I personally actually liked it. But the part that I'm kind of picking on is that he said that it was acid etched. I don't know if he has information that I don't. One thing I did notice though was when I cut with this thing, the streaks that it left through the blade actually went through the hamon line. It actually scratched through it. Now that might in fact give credence to the fact that it was acid etched on. I've never heard of it doing that before, but that was my experience. So again, I don't know where he got that information. I didn't really find it anywhere, but that was my experience with it and my preference. Now, the last bit here of Matt's footage that I decided to include is just him doing some of his kata with it. He described it as being just not being that lively in the hand, and I have to admit I had kind of a similar experience, although I'm not really sure why. And this is where I want to put in the difference between my sword and his. Mine had a bohi, his was a solid blade, and I could tell the difference. I could tell that this could in fact be a much heavier feeling sword if it were a solid blade. That was not my experience. I got a bohi, and it attempted, it's almost like it was trying to feel lighter, and I'm not really sure why. And so, you take that with a grain of salt when comparing my experience to his. They were two slightly different models, but aside from the bohi, they were all exactly the same sword. So that's it for, kind of taking a look at Matt's footage. So, as the title says, this is my turn with the Dynasty Forge 1095 Dragon Theme Katana. Right out of the saya, it has, I have to admit, it has a nice feel. The presence of the bohi means absence of weight, and it had a nice feel to it. And I'm trying to get a little better about my kata here, and just trying to improve just a little bit by little bit. With each sword, it presents a new challenge, but it's fun. And just trying to, get the feel of the thing. And one thing I did notice was that the handle was very comfortable. The Eater wrap, that silk wrap, I do prefer it. The cotton wrap, I typically go, and put gloves on with it because it just doesn't feel that, nice in the hand. So with here, I was able to barehand it. It was feeling just fine. Cutting the water bottles, however, was not that fun. And, I'm looking at it just kind of wondering what in the world is my problem here. And I don't know, there was just something about it. I felt it was just being forced. It just was not that fun. I mean, with water bottle experience, yeah, I mean, it's fun to, fillet them like that. And this one did it did a good job doing it. This is kind of, milk bottles are kind of the poor man's tatami mats for those of us who haven't gotten a tatami mat cutter or a tatami mat, stand and getting those tatami mats over and over and over again. But the harder swing and a miss, but I recovered. Yeah, the harder plastic bottles turned out to be a bit of a chore for this. And yet this was a 1095 steel blade, which tends to have that harder edge. Usually they get it with a sharper edge. The empty milk bottle wasn't even challenged. However, this was fun, and that was when it came to the TV box, it just slammed right through it. I akin that to the fact that it has a pretty wide blade. In fact, I've heard some people compare it to things like the Raptors and Cold Steel's Warrior Katana as far as the width of the blade is concerned. But that was basically it. It's a 1095 blade, which means, guess what, kids? Oil it. Comment was recently made on a video saying, very kind of laughing, condescending way, you're using WD-40 on a sword? Yes, as a matter of fact, I am, because WD-40, while its primary purpose is not a lubricant, it also cleans. It's also a nice, clean, easy lubricant to use, unless you're storing it. If you're storing a katana, then I can understand using a heavier oil. But in this case, it works.
First of all, you'll have to forgive every once in a while the occasional odd sound in the background. I'm having some landscaping done, and so if you hear that, jackhammers and things going off, sorry, I'm not in a Hollywood studio here. I'm just in my library, so forgive me for that. Second of all, let's take a look at some overall thoughts about this sword. This is again the Silver Dragon from Dynasty Forge. And let's pop it out here. I mentioned in the unboxing that when I first got this sword, and I found it very interesting because when I first got it out of the box, which as you guys saw was a little unorthodox, my first impression was this is a really nice looking katana. The blade has this really nice polish on it. I'm kind of a sucker for the silver. The silver theme on the katana. I kind of like that because so many of the stuff that's coming out of China and so many of the kind of the regular run-of-the-mill, production katanas that are coming out right now have this being brass, 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 brass. The problem was when I started to look at the sword a lot closer. First of all, Fuchi was a little loose. Eyelets in the saya plug, loose. Have some saya rattle. And the one that got me the worst of all, the camera's not going to be able to show this, and that's because I've really started to get a discerning eye when it comes to these things. And that is, I have the distinct impression when I look down the blade of this thing that it is crooked. And it goes in one direction, and then right about at the Tsuba, the blade goes off in the other direction. When I start looking at that, I can't look at these things the same way again. Then there came the cutting experience. Now, I had to admit, first of all, it's got a nice wide blade, which means I'm expecting kind of the same kind of cutting experience as, let's say, a Ronin katana or a raptor. Now, mind you, those are solid bladed katanas. This one does have a bohe, so I did feel the lighter weight to it, and that was fine. But it just wasn't that lively of an experience for me. I mean, the more I started adding up those little things, I started to get this impression that this thing was just all looks and not a lot of really quality substance. And so I went back to the first katana that I bought when I started doing all these YouTube videos, and that's the one from Swords of Northshire, which also had a 1095 blade, which this one does. It was clay, differentially heat treated, just like this one does. And it was even a longer blade than this one. And I just found it a much more lively experience, swinging that thing around. And that one's even longer. So I was figuring, oh, it's going to be heavier than this. It's been a while since I took that one out. Nope. It just was a much more, I don't know, I'm getting to that point where these things where the experiences I'm having with them is becoming almost, my words are failing me, an ineffable kind of experience. Well, let's bounce this off the price point. Originally, this one is going for around, on Dynasty Forge's website, it's going for between $400 and $500. So it's right at that cap, that $500 cap. And yet, I was actually able to get this through a distributor because of price matching. Dynasty Forge had a sale. I wasn't really interested in getting it through Dynasty Forge. I wanted to get it through a distributor that I've trusted before, and so they were able to price it, match it for me, and actually get able to get it to me at a cheaper price because of shipping and blah 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 blah, all this kind of stuff. Point is, I got it for well under $400, and I'm actually glad I did, because I've got quite a few other swords that are in this price range that I would much rather prefer. So, you know, I think when it comes down to it, I gotta say that I agree with a comment that was made on Matthew Jensen's video that he made about this product. The comment was, so the overall impression is a resounding meh. I gotta say I kind of agree. Out of the box, it's real pretty. The aesthetics to it are very nice. On that point, I'll disagree with some of the naysayers. From an aesthetic point of view, this is a very aesthetically pleasing looking katana. However, you start holding it a lot more and taking out and using it, and that's where again, my words fail me, and it just kind of loses some of that aesthetic luster. And so, you know, for a couple of the reasons I mentioned about some of the design features and, you know, just my overall feeling about it is that I think you can do better. I have to say, at this price point, there are definitely some options that are better than this, and that are going to give you a much more fun experience. You know, doing either your backyard cutting, tamashigiri, or, you know, bottle shigiri, as I've been demonstrating on these shows, on these videos. So, is it worth your money? I'm gonna have to say no. That's kind of my, you know, box checked for this one. I hope this has been informative for you. The different things I've put together for this one, both the information, how it came to me, what I thought of the aesthetics, the feel of it. It does come down to a lot of subjective opinions. I think, you know, this is how it works for me, kind of thing. But, you know, you start putting those all together, and you start to get kind of a consensus about these products, and I hope we've done that with this one today. So again, comment, subscribe to the channel, comment, please comment. I do love looking at the comments. I do try and respond to them. Keep it civil, keep it clean, if you could. Every once in a while we get the, you know, people who just want to yak for the same yak, but most of the time the comments I get are people who say, you know, I was interested in this one, you know, this was informative for me. Thank you for, you know, putting this video on, or things like, I had one of those and I thought it was crap, and why do you think it's good? And we can talk about that. So stuff like that I really do enjoy. So that's all I have for you for this one. Again, hope it was informative for you, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.